Hello and welcome to Hope. This is my new friend Sal. Hi Sal,
Hello,
how are
hello.
you?
Awesome, awesome.
Wait till you guys hear how I met Sal. So, my name is Tammy Lynn Connors and this is Hope, helping other people evolve. My mission and vision here is just to help people get through their struggles to get to a strength. What I do is I interview people that have been through struggles, unfortunately, but fortunately, they have found hope and they have a strength. So, here's a story, and you guys always know I have a story of how my podcasts start. People ask me all the time, how do you meet people? And I'm always like, God, the universe, whatever you want to believe, I believe it's God, puts people in my life. So I was traveling to San Francisco to interview Philip and Christina, and I was at my friend's here in Victorville, and I was doing my 75 hard challenge, and I went for my morning walk, and I met this beautiful lady named Carla. And when I met Carla, we were talking outside. I asked her if she listens to podcasts. She said yes. We exchanged. She followed my podcast. She had told me that her and her husband and someone else had a business and gave me their little card for nutrition drinks. So I left, went home, went to San Francisco, came back through today. I was actually going to drive to Arizona tonight, and I decided, you know what, I'm just going to stay for the night, and I'm going to run over to that nutrition place and get a drink. And then here I am. Carla comes in, and she's like, Sal's got a great story of hope, and here we are. Right, Sal?
Yes,
Right.
awesome.
So, and the business that you have is
It's a nutrition protein bar, right? So we basically help people with through a better nutrition, and at the same time is I feel my mission is the nutrition is the introduction, but it's mostly giving people same thing hope, and being able to shift that mindset, into more habits that are going to lead you in the right path. So
yes,
definitely.
yes. So we were talking a little bit, and I was sharing about hope, and Sal had told me that he has family members that struggle with addiction, and then we went through that, and then I kind of said, okay, let's hear your story of hope. So he has an incredible story of hope. I sit here with him. You're 33. Okay. Two kids
Two kids
and a wife, right? Yeah, he just showed me pictures of his kids. They're adorable. He's a little girl and a little boy. And so let's go back to, let's just say 17 years old, maybe. Would that be a good time to go
That's a
back
good
to?
time.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Or before that? Was it bad before that? 13.
Oh, I was, yeah.
13. I heard 13.
13
That's
was,
right.
yeah.
Okay, let's go
Awesome.
back to 13.
Well, I think I'm gonna go a little bit even farther back.
Okay,
So,
perfect.
um, one thing. Oh, so I'm gonna share just a little bit of how my upbringings. I did mention, as we were speaking, that I come from, from a dysfunctional family. My mom has alcohol problems up to this day. My dad has drug problems, and now currently my youngest brother has drug problems as well. But I remember growing up, coming from this dysfunctional family, I always had lots of struggles. I remember sometimes we had nothing to eat. I remember many times being alone at home because my dad was never there. He was either in jail or somewhere in the streets getting drugged up. And my mom, even though she had an addiction problem, she was always she was a breadwinner, right? So she was always out there trying to get that bread for us and, try to get something back to us. But the vast majority of my childhood, I was alone. I was, and I went through a lot of humiliations. I went through a lot of. I remember going to school and kids making fun of me because maybe, I didn't have the best clothing because my mom could only give me hand downs or she would buy stuff like in a secondhand stores. And I remember, all that throughout my youth, throughout my childhood, hurted me. I remember even family members humiliating because we had less than them. And I knew all this. I got to a point where I knew all this came from my parents having these addiction problems. And about when I was 13, which was the number that we mentioned, my father was always on and off, but at 13 he finally disappeared from the picture, right? And I think that at that age I decided I was going to start hanging around with the wrong crowd. I felt the need of bringing income home because my mom's income wasn't enough.
Okay.
And I just wanted a better lifestyle. I was tired of living the way I lived. And at the same time I was full of anger. I was full of resentment towards my father, towards my mother. And just hanging around. I grew up in South Central LA in Watts, so these areas, high drug, high prostitution. I mean, you name it, crime. So most of my friends around the block were drug dealers, were gangsters, and at that age of 15, 16, I got introduced to making business out in the street, just to keep it at that. And I thought that was going to be my way out of poverty. That was going to be my way out of what I've lived throughout my childhood.
Right.
But I was doing good in the beginning, doing what they showed me to do. But eventually, as time goes by, they say you become that who you hang around with.
Yes.
So I remember that even though I would smoke some of the weed, I started doing heavier drugs because I got introduced to heavier drugs. I got introduced to crystal, and that was like later in my teens, like 19, 20, 21. And I remember that I try not to like overdo it, but it got to a point where I lost it. I was getting in trouble with the law. I had left my house at 17 because I felt that again I had so much to blame my mom for, my dad, and I just I went on my own at age 17. But by age 21, I had completely lost myself. I had completely burned all my bridges. I was practically alone. I had nowhere to run. Luckily, my girlfriend, which is now my wife,
Uh-huh.
I believe, like you said, God put her on my path for some reason, a divine reason. And I met her when I was 15. So, she was the only person there when I felt, when I hit rock bottom. Age 21 to me was the breaking point, to the point where I had a breakdown where I had so much anger towards my dad and so much resentment that I had told myself I was never going to be like my dad. And what took me to a suicidal stage of mine and being more addicted into the drugs was the fact that I realized I had became my dad, right? Something I did not want to be. So to now make this, the podcast so long, I remember that, if I was to go back 24 hours before I changed my life around, I was just talking to you about this.
Yes.
I was actually in the restroom where I was living. Mind you, I was behind rent like 3 months. I was getting evicted from where I was living. The person that was supplying me with the stuff that I was selling was actually looking for me because everything I was supposed to sell was consuming it, and I was just in a dark place. Like I said, I remember being in the kneeling down in the toilet, trying to throw up, and it was just it was just like air coming out of me. Nothing was coming out. I was actually blaming God in that moment. I was screaming. I didn't. I was just asking him to manifest and show up because I felt like he wasn't real. I felt like like I was cursed, like like he just didn't love me, and I was blaming him. I was swearing at him, but and now I realize it was like that cry of, even though it wasn't the right way, it was that cry of hope, right? Please manifest into my life. Please change my life around. And at the same time, I was explaining that I wanted to take my life away, but I remember, as like an outer body experience, looking at myself from the top,
Yeah.
just being in the floor, trying to get up to try to get something to take my life away, and I just couldn't. I just couldn't. I was so weak. I was so in tears that I just couldn't get up. And what happened next was I just hear the door open up, and it was my girlfriend,
Oh.
right? And she comes in, she sees me, she kind of slaps me out of it, and I remember she's a strong woman, and I remember her telling me, "What are you doing?" With a lot of swear words, trying to get me up. Like, you're so young, you're so handsome, you got so much in front of you. And I remember being in that victim mentality and telling her, "You know what? You don't understand. My life has been miserable. My life, I just want to end it." And I remember she said, "You know what? There's more to life, and you're drowning in a cup of water."
That's good.
And I remember I hated her at that moment for that, right?
Right.
Because I felt like she wasn't understanding. And to make the long story short, I remember she told me that she was going to go to a meeting, right? And she left the address there of where that meeting was going to be. She left the time. And that night, i just I just remember, I don't even remember, I just remember waking up the next day, and it was around that time where the meeting was going to happen, and just looking for the paper, looking for the address, and I just showed up to that meeting.
And why did you show up to that meeting?
Well, I showed up to that meeting, right?
We're gonna get
because
real here.
I was so insecure at that moment that I just wanted to make sure she was going to where she said she was going and not somewhere else, right? So I went out of jealousy, out of insecurity. And again, God works in mysterious ways. In that meeting, I was introduced to my mentor, and which showed me the ropes in what I now do.
Uh-huh.
He also showed me, he spoke to me about philosophy, a word that I had never heard about. And he explained to me kind of what that was. And just to sum it up, he explained to me that philosophy is the way you view the world. And he said that the reason why it was going so bad for me is because I view the world through the wrong eyes. And if I was to change my philosophy, then my life could change around. So that's exactly what I did. Even though I didn't believe him, I didn't really trust him, I didn't really think I could do what he was doing at that moment, which is what I currently do. I decided to trust, and I decided to become. I think I was always a real, very rebel.
Right.
Like I didn't obey the law. Anything that had to do with structure and law was no for me.
Right.
So I humbled myself. I said, I'm gonna do as you say, and he's introduced me to self growth books. He introduced me to personal development seminars, and I mean, the rest is history. Nowadays, it took us. I was 21 when that happened. We worked hard in what we now do. By age 27, we had reached a point where financially we're well off, and we decided to start a family then. So now I'm 33, so it's 5 years after those 27s. We've been able to shift our lives around. We have an incredible, like you mentioned earlier, incredible lifestyle right now, an incredible family. My kids are the center of my universe. I've been able to spend the last 5 years just caring and looking after them, and it's just been amazing. So, if there's something I could share with you guys is, there's always hope. As long as you're willing, I believe there's always angels and people that come across your path.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to get too religious, but the way I see it, every single day when I wake up, I believe that God whispers to your ear. And if you're fully present and you follow your intuition and you're listening to that, divine that's inside of us, then every day, like today we met, and I think this is for a reason.
Oh, yeah.
Right? And I think he didn't just whisper, he yelled at me, right, and brought somebody that manifested, totally. Because then again, we were just sitting there for like 2 hours doing nothing, right? And all of a sudden, you came in and we started, and I just felt that soul connection.
Yes.
So, guys, it's just amazing. All I could tell you guys is, keep that hope up. Be that humble student and be fully present, and listen to God's whisper. He's
Right.
always there.
Right.
And I think that's kind of it for my part.
That's good. And so I want to, I always I go back a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So like growing up, we were talking about this earlier too. Like, you said that you didn't want to be your dad, and then here you were going and you were being your dad. And I said earlier that because I feel like we go through life, and when you're in that kind of dysfunction, it's not dysfunction to you at that time. It's normal. It's what you know. It's the only thing that you know. And to be able to hear other people say that it's not the way it's supposed to be, and we have to break that cycle somehow. And whether you let God intervene or your girlfriend intervene, you have those people in your life that want to intervene. You have to allow them though. So I know that we talked earlier too about having family members still struggling with addiction, and that if you could share a little bit with that. Like I said, I struggled a long time knowing that I have a niece that's in a brain trauma injury house because of an overdose, and another niece that uses some things still, and just a lot going on. And what you said earlier was pretty powerful to me, that that you have helped them as much as you could.
Awesome. Oh yeah. So you want me to share a little bit about that?
Yes.
So yeah, we were talking about, again, coming from, I think it's, I believe in generational curses too. And I mean, if I go down my bloodline, a lot of my family members have died from alcohol abuse and drug abuse.
Mm-hmm.
So um, this at this present moment, my mom called me earlier, and she's been drunk for like the past maybe 6 7 days. My brother's currently suffering from uh, what is it, perk 30s addiction. My dad, crystal addiction, as we speak, and he just got, yes. Yeah, my mom called me today. My dad called me yesterday. Well, not my dad. His sister called me yesterday, and he's also on top of his addiction now. He's got diagnosed with diabetes. So it's just so many things, right? And we were sharing earlier that I feel in peace with myself. Even though I have loved ones that are still struggling with addiction, because I've done everything in my reach to try to help them. I put my brother in several rehabs. I put my mother in several rehabs, and I've just done everything that I could physically and humanly do, right? But I came to a realization once I ran out of resources, that sometimes God has a path, right? And every soul has a journey, and sometimes we try to go against the divine, and we try to put our own path into whatever God has written for you, right? We try to change the scripture of everybody's soul, and my belief now is, and I'm in peace with it, that every soul needs to go through a certain life experience. And I pray that hopefully my mom gets better, my dad gets better, and my brother gets better. But if that's what's written on God's book, that they have to go through this life journey, then that's just the way it's gonna be. And that's kind of what gives me peace.
Yeah.
Just to know that I've done everything physically possible, and now it's all in God's hands.
Right, right. Yeah, and I thought that was pretty powerful, because I've talked about that before too. And the noise is good, because that means his business is doing good. I mean, we sat here, we didn't have anybody, and then we started this, and people are coming in. I'm like, keep coming, it's good.
Awesome.
But so I just, your story is incredible. I love the fact that you're still that you made that decision, and you said to me earlier too that like you have this 3 to 5 year plan to be able to be there for your kids.
Yes.
And that's you're young. I mean, 33 is young. Of course, you're the same age as my son. Well, he's 32, but close enough. So that's very young to have that mindset, and to know that that's what you want to do in the best interest of your children. And I'm sure a lot of that has to do with how you grew up, right?
Yes.
And so you want to be the best dad that you can be.
Yes.
And I think that to me, when you said that, I was like, wow, that's so good. Like, he wants to be home with his kids when they're 10, 11, 12.
I think one of the things that I've learned is, I've learned this in a seminar that I took. Sometimes we blame, we look at our circumstances and we don't like what we see, and we tend to go back to find someone to blame, right? And for a long time, when I was living in drugs and in misery, you could say, it was because I was blaming my parents for it. I lived this way because of my parents, because of my childhood, because of what I've been through. But once I've learned that, you could either blame or look for the blessing behind that what you're blaming, then there's also a big blessing. And I think that's what shifted my whole life around, when I saw everything that I used to blame as a blessing, right? So my dad stepping away at early age, developed, even though it wasn't the right business, but developed the businessman inside of me, because I had to go out in the streets and start doing not the right
Best
business.
entrepreneurs out there.
Yes, but I had to, and that led me into having very successful businesses today. Having the courage to just open up and go all in, even though I had, nobody in my family has been a business owner, and just everything. Like, once I connect the dots backwards, it's everything that I went through in my childhood was a blessing in disguise. Going back to my kids, my dad was never there, or he was on and off. So what did I want to do? I wanted to be a full present father, right? And I've been able to do that. Like I said, once we had my little daughter that's 5, we've been able to be with her 24/7. And now my other plan, like I was saying, is now they're in school. So now, now they're in school. The time while they're in school, we decided to open up another location and go hard again. So by the time they hit their teenage years, right, I'm able to be a full present father and do the best I can. Because again, I seen how much effect that had in my life, not having my father present, but definitely I saw how much effect that had in my brother's life. Because my dad stepped away when my brother was he was months.
Right.
So my brother has been without a dad for 22 years. So I do see the importance of being present, right? But being present, and so sometimes you can be present but not dedicate the time to your kids. You're just there,
You're
like,
just there.
right? But I want to be involved in their lives, and again, install new, better habits, better philosophy, and that's basically it. But again, it comes from my upbringing. So if you're gonna blame something, right, also look for the blessing behind that what you blame.
Yes.
Definitely.
Wow, that's good. I like that. Find the blessing in what you blame. That's good. Because a lot of people do stay in that victim mentality. And I love that you talk about mentorship because I think that's huge. And just listening and keeping the positive. When you said, I like what you said too, when you said when you wake up in the morning and you can hear God's whisper. So when I tell all the time, when I wake up in the morning, I always think, no matter, I might wake up and, I don't know, not feel great that day. That doesn't usually happen, but let's just say it did. I will find one thing at least to be grateful for,
Yes, gratitude.
and it's so important. I just was listening to something earlier again today about gratitude because we walk in this world and there is so much negativity. As we know, we talked about the media earlier, and there's so much negativity that you're pretty much responsible for keeping yourself happy and joyful and being that person out there.
Definitely.
I could have walked in this place today and just been like, yeah, let me just have da 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 and walk back out. But that's not who I choose to be. I want to be the light in the world. And when I can come in and somebody's smiling and you can see that presence and that, like you said, that soul, like
Connection.
it was just there, right? And so I know I met Carla for a reason. Now I have new friends in Victorville. I went from one friend to I got like 5
Awesome.
now. I'm like moving on up. I'm gonna come to Victorville and visit more often.
Awesome.
No, but it's just like remembering to be grateful and not be the victim. I always say, don't be a victim, be victorious. You could have easily, I think about that when I think of a young teenager I have no idea what it's like in LA. I've never been to LA, but I've heard stories, and that's probably enough for me. I don't need to go to LA. But to think about you being young, a drug dealer, probably involved with gangs and all of that, and to have the blessing of your girlfriend that God put in your life at 15 for sure, and to have her stand by you. She's somebody I need to interview too, because I'm sure her
she's
story.
powerful. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But just to have her stand by you, and then you to find at a young age be like, I am sick and tired of this, and I need to change or die. And basically that day
That's
you
what it
wanted
was.
to die, right? And I think that we talk about that a lot in the addiction world. Basically, is you get sick and tired of being sick and tired. And when is you're sick and tired? And we never know. But when you said that you were like vomiting, but nothing was coming out and you wanted to die and you're yelling at God. I remember when I quit drinking, I yelled too, like I screamed, but mine was, well, it was take this away. I'm going to die. My son's not going to have a mom. And God came in and said, okay, you're ready. I'm ready. And I think a lot of times people, they're just not ready. Right. But if you really look to other people, I guess. Look at Sal's story. Here he sits at 33 years old now, successful business, just opened another successful business. He has 2 beautiful children, a beautiful wife, and he's out here doing too is, like he said in the beginning, offering hope and helping other people, right? His nutrition is helping other people. His wisdom is helping other people. He's probably a great mentor to somebody, and it's just going to keep going. And if we all keep doing these things to help others evolve, as the podcast says, imagine the world we could live in if just people would step out of their comfort zone and be kind and help other people.
Definitely.
That to me is huge, and I think that's why God had me walk into this place today. So
Definitely.
I appreciate you jumping
Thank
on
you.
here.
Appreciate you.
Is there anything else you want to add? on
No,
here?
I
We
think
just did a big
that's.
hug, just in case you're
No,
not
I
watching
just
the
I just want to
video.
thank you for the time. I just want to thank you for bringing me on, and and just blessings to everybody. I have adapted this belief of I read it somewhere probably where I believe that everything that lives in this earth is here for two main reasons, right? One of them is to grow, and the other one is to contribute.
Mm,
Everything that you see, let's use a lemon seed for example. I believe most of the lemon trees that we have today probably came from one seed,
mm,
right? They planted it, it grew, and it contributed
yes.
and contribute many lemons, and they planted those lemons seeds, and now we have lemons all over the world, right? And I believe everything that's here in earth, that's our soul journey, right? Humans were meant to keep on to grow or evolve and contribute to other people's lives. The sad part is that at some point or another, because of traumas, because of whatever you've been through in life, you stop growing physically, not physically, your physical keeps on growing,
Right,
right?
right.
It's mentally and spiritually, right? But because the skin keeps on growing, it keeps aging. But at some point, traumas stop your mental growth, or you stop your mental growth and your spiritual growth.
Mhm.
But if you were to focus, on the blessings every single day and see each day as a day to keep on growing physically and mentally and spiritually, and find a way to contribute in somebody's life, then your life will completely change. And as you give, you shall receive. And that's why when you brought me on and you said, let's do the podcast, first of all, I thank you for that, And second, I felt that in somehow, some way, I'm contributing to the world, and, we're helping more people out.
Yes, that's exactly
So
it.
let's
So
keep going.
I thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for getting on here. It's funny because I said, "You want to do the podcast right now?" I got my laptop out in the truck. So thank you so much,
No,
Sal. I
thank you.
appreciate it. And I know this is going to be a continued friendship. I can't wait to meet your wife and kids. And I thank everybody for jumping on Hope, and we will talk to you all soon. Have a blessed night.